Welcome to the Albuquerque Journal Midweek Blitz High School Football Show with your hosts, James Yodice and Jeff Grammer. This show is sponsored by Western New Mexico University.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the final edition of the 2023 Midweek Blitz, the Albuquerque Journal's high school football podcast. I'm James Yodice. I'm the high school sports editor at the Albuquerque Journal. And this is the last of our, I believe, 15 podcasts that we've done this year, primarily covering high school football. We're going to basically, it's not going to be too long today. We're going to recap the 4 championship games that were played last weekend in classes 3A, 4A, 5A, and 6A, and just talk a little bit about each game. So football season is over. As I sit down and do this podcast, it is Tuesday afternoon, the 28th. We're going to be starting our basketball podcast this week. As a matter of fact, for those of you who watch both of these podcasts, you'll notice I'm wearing the same shirt. That's because we're going to do both of them today. So basketball season really gets underway in mass around the metro area on Tuesday night. All the teams will be rolling out slowly over the course of the next 4 or 5 days as the season gets going. So why don't we jump into football? We're going to kind of do this progressively, work our way up from 3A up to 6A. And concluding with the Cleveland-La Cueva game. So why don't we start in 3A? St. Michael's was the number 1 seed. They beat Robertson, the number 2 seed, 21-16 at Ivanhead Stadium at Santa Fe High School. So the Horsemen actually ended up being the only number 1 seed among the 11-man classes, and there are 5 of them. The only number 1 seed to actually win state this year. So St. Mike's, as it did 2 weeks earlier in the quarterfinals against Raton, St. Mike's had a big fourth quarter, 14 points to go ahead 21-10. Robertson scored on a late touchdown with about 2 minutes left to cut the score to 21-16. St. Mike's recovered the onside kick and ran out the clock. So the Horsemen get their first title in quite a few years. All credit to Joey Fernandez, their coach, and their team. Saran Anand, the running back, had 125 yards rushing in this game. Lucas Gourlay had a tremendous touchdown catch with 3:18 left in the fourth quarter that put St. Michael's ahead 21-10 and put Robertson really in a big hole. I think I said last week when Adam Deal was here that I thought 17 points would probably be enough to win this game, which ended up being correct by just a single point. These two teams were district rivals. St. Mike's beat them 21-0 in the regular season. It is extremely difficult, and we'll get into that a little bit more with La Cueva Cleveland in a few minutes, but it's extremely difficult to beat a district rival twice in the same year, even if you beat them handily the first time. So St. Mike's puts up 21 points, wins it all. The interesting note, of course, was that this game started almost an hour late because Santa Fe got 5 inches of snow on Friday night and Saturday morning, so they had to push the start back time almost an hour while they cleared the field. I'm sorry I missed that. I love Snow State Championship games. I haven't had one in quite a while. So all credit to Santa Fe for coming from behind. Robertson had led this game a good chunk of the way. They were up 10-7 at halftime before St. Mike's scored these 14 points in the fourth quarter. And you can go back with St. Michael's, 2 weeks earlier to the quarterfinals against Raton when St. Mike's was down 14-0 in the fourth quarter at home and scored 21 points kind of rapid fire in the fourth quarter just to advance. So you never know how a playoff bracket is going to play out, and you never know how it's going to play out for individual teams. St. Mike's looked to be on the ropes against Raton, and they were just 12 minutes basically from being eliminated. They summon 3 touchdowns in a short span and find a way to advance, beat up on New Mexico Military Institute pretty good in the semifinals, and then win the state title, the 3A state title, on Saturday. So all credit to St. Mike's for winning the 3A title. So why don't we move into the Class 4A division? Lovington, the number 2 seed, just beat up on Portales, a district rival, 57-21. That game was at Greyhound Stadium in Portales. Lovington put together a tremendous performance. No other way to say it. This was a game that was much, much less competitive than I would have guessed, and I think that most of us would have guessed. These two teams played a 29-21 game on the last day of the regular season. I actually picked Portales in this game. I thought somehow Portales was going to find a way to kind of turn the tables a bit, and that defense would find a way to get it done, especially with Portales coming off that really big emotional win over Bloomfield in the semifinals. But Lovington came out. They scored the first 22 points in this game. They were up 22-0. Wyatt Gomez, their quarterback, had 5 touchdown passes for the second straight week. He had 5 TDs in the semifinals against Silver. He had 5 more in the championship game. And really, I think where this game was ultimately decided, you can go to the last several minutes of the first half. It was 22-7. So Portales was hanging around and certainly with a chance to get back in the game. But Lovington scored 2 rapid-fire touchdowns within about a minute and a half of each other to go up 36-7 at halftime, and that was it. There was no coming back for Portales. So all credit to Lovington. Boy, that was a really great playoffs showing for Lovington all the way through. They beat up on Silver, who was the 3 seed. They just really put it to Portales, who was the 4 seed. So Lovington with a huge victory, an impressive victory, maybe in some ways the most impressive outside of La Cueva's win on Championship Saturday. And, we should mention, too, Lovington, and I happened upon this on social media, Lovington apparently did not punt once in any of its 3 playoff victories. They played Espanola Valley going back to the quarterfinals, then Silver, then Portales. They didn't punt once, which is unbelievably impressive. And something else I found, Wyatt Gomez, the Lovington quarterback who played at such a high level all season for Lovington, finished with more touchdown passes in the playoffs than he had incompletions. And just think about that for a second. And Lovington throws the ball a pretty fair bit. So all due credit to Wyatt Gomez, that Lovington quarterback, and to the Lovington Wildcats for winning the 4A state title, once again, 57-21 over Portales. So let's move on. We're going to jump into the 5A state championship game next. This is the game I covered on Saturday. Artesia, the number 2 seed, beats number 1 Roswell 35-21 at Bulldog Bowl. Tremendous crowd, about 7,500 people at Bulldog Bowl. There was nowhere to stand or sit in this facility. It was, as always, a tremendous environment. Bulldog Bowl on Championship Saturday is the best environment you get in New Mexico high school football, anywhere, any day. It's really a magical experience, and if you've never had a chance to do it, and you someday might have a chance, I'd say give it a try, and I think you'll understand what I mean. Artesia had lost to Roswell 29-8 back in the regular season. This was about 6 weeks earlier, in the middle of October in Roswell, and Artesia's offense didn't score a single point. Their 1 touchdown was a defensive score. So Artesia comes in and plays a really solid game. Nye Estrada, their quarterback, throws for 295 yards and 5 touchdowns, covering 25 yards, 29 yards, 35 yards, 45 yards, and 91 yards. And he only had 14 completions, so that's over 20 yards per completion. So Estrada really went off in this game. I caught up with Nye after the game. This is what he had to say.
So we were visiting with Artesia quarterback Nye Estrada. Big day for you, almost 300 yards passing, I believe 5 touchdowns. Tell me how you guys got it done today.
Last time, we weren't completing anything. They were shutting us down all game. So since then, we've been working crazy hard after practice, and the connection's gotten better and better, so it paid off.
So the first game, which I covered, you guys struggled in the red zone. You guys didn't even have that many red zone trips today because you hit so many big plays. What was available to you in the pass game that you saw?
Every time we would go trips, we would go no back. They'd have a guy that we felt like we could beat. So that's what we did.
Talk about the contributions of both Ethan and Juan Diego today.
Amazing. They've been doing their thing outside of practice, inside of practice, working, throwing routes, and it's paid off.
So after the first game, which you guys got shut out as an offense, did you guys take that to heart and take that personally? Absolutely. As you came out today?
Absolutely. Rick Armendariz has been holding us accountable since October 13th. These past 6 weeks, it's been nonstop practice, out of practice. We've been doing our thing.
So to beat your rival here for the state championship, just describe the emotions of that.
It's amazing. With my guys, I've been growing up with them, and to beat them here at the Wolf Balls, it's awesome.
Education and training at Western New Mexico University is accessible from every corner of the land of enchantment, providing limitless opportunities toward success for more than a century. And now, through the New Mexico Opportunity Scholarship, tuition and fees are covered for anyone looking to start or start over. Along with free tuition, books are always included for every WNMU student, assuring your only worry is how far you can actually go. Lift off toward your future and endless potential at WNMU today.
So although Artesia was leading and in control a good chunk of the way, this game had certainly plenty of ebb and flow to it. I'm thinking about several key swing moments here in this game. Artesia hit a 91-yard touchdown pass to Juan Diego Duran late in the first half. That was a crusher for both teams. It was unexpected, and it put Roswell in a big hole as they went to halftime. Artesia was really in control at that point, and Artesia's pass game had been there with big plays the entire game. Nia Estrada had time to throw it, and he made some really good throws and found some really open receivers in the secondary. Ethan Kahn from Artesia caught the first 2 touchdown passes, and Juan Diego Duran, who caught the 91-yarder that I just referenced, he had the other 3. So those 2 receivers found a lot of space on Saturday against that Roswell defense. That was something Artesia didn't have as much of in the first game. Now, the first game, Nia Estrada wasn't as sharp, and also there were a couple of key drops in there that hurt Artesia's chances, but he made all the throws with one exception in this game as Artesia wins its 32nd state championship. And, of course, after the game, Artesia unveiled the giant number 1 that sits on top of the Bulldog Bowl press box, which most of you probably are unaware of. The Artesia football players go up to the top of the press box, and they unveil a giant number 1 whenever they win state, and that 1 is visible to anybody driving down the main road next to Bulldog Bowl. And there's a nice little corner on their press box reserved for the football that will indicate their 2023 championship. So Artesia now with 32 state titles. That is second, tied for second nationally. Washington High from Sioux Falls, South Dakota has 41, and Central High from Little Rock, Arkansas has 32 as well. So Artesia now tied for second. Only one school in the country now has more state football championships than Artesia, and when you sit down and think about that in context, that is just a remarkable thing. So Bulldog Bowl gets to celebrate another state title. As I said, this game had some key moments. Artesia was leading this game 28-21 kind of late in the third quarter and was driving for more points following a turnover. And Nia Estrada made the one bad throw that he made the whole day. He made a back leg throw that he should not have made. It turned into an easy pick six the other way, 80 yards for Roswell. And suddenly it became a 28-21 game. So instead of Artesia going up by 3 scores, Roswell was now within just 7, and this was sort of near the end of the third quarter. So I think that had everyone on edge. You could feel the energy kind of drain out of the facility a little bit on the Artesia side after this happened. That was the worst-case scenario for them and the best-case scenario for Roswell, and gave the Coyotes a chance to get back in the game in the fourth quarter. And, in fact, they had a good chance to do that. Artesia, with about, 7 or 8 minutes left, I think, had a drive going and was marching for a touchdown to put them up 2 scores. There was a penalty. There was a double reverse that failed miserably and put them all the way back to the 29-yard line for a 2nd and goal. And then Artesia scored a touchdown on the next play, which was just really, I think, the final nail for Roswell. That put them back down 14 points. Roswell's quarterback, Manny Fuentes, went down in this game several times, including a couple of times in the fourth quarter. He didn't even finish the game. He was knocked briefly unconscious in the fourth quarter. This was a few minutes after he got hurt on a previous play. I think that was kind of a leg thing. So they lost Manny. They had no chance to come back without Manny Fuentes. And so that Artesia defense didn't have the burden of having to face him down the stretch with Roswell trying to make up a 14-point deficit. So it really was that 2nd and goal play from the 29 that just ended up being a real killer for Roswell. And Roswell gave up big plays the whole game. Earlier in the game, Artesia hit a 4th and 15 touchdown pass to Juan Diego Duran on a play that Roswell defended extremely well. Nia Estrada ended up scrambling a bit and just ended up heaving up a ball and completes it right at the goal line for a touchdown. These were the kind of plays Artesia was making on Saturday that they did not make in the first game. And all of that cumulatively just took a major toll on that Roswell defense. So Artesia ends up beating their district rival at home and avenging a loss to Roswell in the regular season. So all congratulations to the Artesia Bulldogs. That is title number 32, including 2 in a row. And the Bulldogs look as strong as ever, and a lot of their key players are going to be back next year. Okay, let's jump into the final game from last Saturday. That would be the Class 6A championship game, which was played at Cleveland. And La Cueva, the number 3 seed, the lowest seed to win state of any of the 11-man classes, they were a 3 seed, just really took it to Cleveland, 35-14 in the final. The Bears got a big performance from their junior quarterback, Cam Dyer. Cheeto Lambrera, the running back, went over 100 yards for the second straight game in these playoffs, including a big touchdown run. And La Cueva, which, when the playoff brackets came out, this was at the end of October, I wrote a column, and I said that the most interesting team on the board in 6A was La Cueva, because La Cueva had all the momentum as the playoffs began. La Cueva won its final 7 games of the regular season, most of them really one-sided, and La Cueva looked really good throughout its entire district schedule, and plus they beat teams like Las Lunas and Volcano Vista before they got into district. So La Cueva had a ton of momentum coming into the playoffs. That made them the most interesting team to watch here. Now, I picked Cleveland in this game, mostly because I thought their defense had demonstrated that they were better than everybody else. Even though they played La Cueva back in week 2 and beat them 27-7, La Cueva had some turnover problems that night. I still thought Cleveland's defense was really the X factor here that was going to put Cleveland over the top. Well, I could not have been more wrong, obviously. La Cueva comes out and with their run game and with Cameron Dyer's legs, which was really the big concern for Cleveland coach Robert Garza and that defensive staff and that entire defense, was Cam Dyer, the La Cueva quarterback, who's 6'4", extremely athletic. He's big, he's quick, he's savvy, and his big runs, especially in the second quarter, were just, I think, the pivotal moments here. Cam had touchdown runs of 88 yards and 72 yards in the second quarter that put La Cueva ahead 21-7, and really, La Cueva was able to play downhill more often than not and put Cleveland in an uncomfortable position. Cleveland likes to get a lead and kind of ground and pound it with Harris Bueja. They're really good running back. They weren't able to do that this time. You're forced to throw and try and catch up and get outside your comfort zone a bit. And that La Cueva defense, which I described last week and I will continue to assert, was a good defense. It was not a great defense, but it sounds like they played a great game. This La Cueva defense came up with most of the big plays on Saturday, and their offense made all the big plays in the running game. Cheeto Lambrera, who I mentioned a second ago, had a 66-yard touchdown run on the first play of the second half. As an example of the kind of big plays La Cueva put together. Cleveland has one of those defenses that are hard to drive on over a sustained length of time, an 8-play drive or a 10-play drive. Eventually they will get you. La Cueva didn't really have that concern on Saturday. They were hitting big plays in their run game, long plays. I mean, the kind of back-breaking runs that really can take the spirit out of a defense. So you look at Cameron Dyer, who accounts for, I think, 350 yards and 3 scores. As we mentioned, Cheeto Lambrera. And La Cueva gets back at Cleveland for the championship game loss that La Cueva suffered to Cleveland last year up at Wilson Stadium, and the loss, of course, in the regular season. So La Cueva was able to sustain all that momentum from the end of the regular season and take it into the playoffs. They beat Farmington. They scored 63 on Las Cruces, and then they go into Cleveland and win 35-14 in the 6A final. It is the first state championship game for Cleveland in 5 years, when they actually won at Cleveland that day too. So all credit to La Cueva and the job they put in, and especially Cam Dyer, who just blossomed over, I'd say, the last 2/3 of this season. He was a little shaky early on as he kind of took over this offense, and Cam just absolutely blossomed and matured and became the great quarterback I think La Cueva expected him to be. And with his dual threat ability, goodness, not very much any team can do when he starts getting loose, even a defense like Cleveland. So La Cueva gets that title, and all credit to them. I would make a quick note before we kind of get out of here today. There were 3 defenses that came into the weekend with really dominant type numbers. Cleveland was one of them. Cleveland, and we talked about this last week, Cleveland gave up 60 total points in 9 wins over all the 6A opponents on their schedule. And that included La Cueva and Centennial, Hobbs, Cruces, Volcano, Rio Rancho, all the really good teams in 6A. Cleveland gives up 60 points total in all of those 9 games and then gives up 35 to La Cueva on Saturday. Roswell had only given up, I think, 73 points in 12 games. That's 6 points a game. And Artesia puts up 35 on them on Saturday. Portales had only given up 84 points in 12 games. That's 7 a game. They give up 57 to Lovington. So you're talking about Cleveland, Portales, Roswell, 3 championship-level defenses, all of whom got torched pretty good in the state championship game. And this reinforces a notion I've started to believe for some time now. Often coaches will say, well, defense wins championships. Maybe that's true sometimes, but I think as often as not now, defense wins games and offense is winning championships. Look at Lovington, 57 on a team that only gave up 84 the whole year. Same thing with Cleveland, same thing with Roswell. These are defenses that didn't bend against anyone, and then on the biggest stage of the year, their defenses were just beaten. That's it. It doesn't make them less of a great defense, but they all had tough days, and they were all shredded pretty good. So I found that to be a really interesting side note to all of this. And as we say goodbye to the football season and get ready for basketball, of the 11-man classes, and I mentioned this with St. Mike's, only one of the number one seeds ended up winning state among the 11-man classes, and that was St. Mike's. Lovington was a 2, Artesia was a 2, Texaco, which won the 2A title, was a 2 seed, and La Cueva was a 3 seed. And there was only one other number one seed that won state, that was Melrose, an 8-man. So, number one seeds are nice and they play out very well, but they're not the be-all, end-all, and they don't have really any say over who's going to win state, certainly. But it was an interesting day, especially with La Cueva's win. That one like I said, I picked Cleveland. That one caught me off guard. We did not have many competitive football games in these playoffs. I looked it up the other day. Of the 51 playoff games in the 11-man brackets, that's 11 games each in 6A, 5A, 4A, and 3A, and 7 games in the 2A bracket, which doesn't have a first round. Of the 51 games, only 8 were decided by a single score. And I thought that seemed unusual, that we did not have very many competitive games across the board. In 5A, we only had 1 game decided by a single score, and that was the first weekend, Mayfield and Gadsden. In 6A, we only had 1 game decided by a single score. That was the Las Cruces Centennial game, going back to the quarterfinals, which Las Cruces won 38-34. So we didn't have the kind of thrills I had hoped for on Championship Saturday, but it was a great season. And again, congratulations to all the teams that won state titles. That includes Roy Mosquero, the 6-man state champion, Melrose, an 8-man, Texaco, St. Michael's, Lovington, Artesia, and the La Cueva Bears. Anyway, thank you for watching all season. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. This has been a new thing for me. You can find all our podcasts on abqjournal.com or on YouTube. You can also find all of Jeff Grammer's podcasts on those platforms as well. Jeff obviously covers Lobo basketball immensely well and is much more of a veteran at these podcasts than I am. So you can find those podcasts on our website, on the Journal's website. If you have anything you want to shoot at me, you can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at James D. Yodice. My email address is on there as well, jyodice@abqjournal.com. And as always, we encourage you to read, hear, watch. Thanks again for everything during football season. We will see you next fall.